I'm Ryan. This is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. And today we are talking about our top board game plays of, is it already November for top plays here, Daniel? We're already in the month of December here filming this.
Holy cow.
And your face looked like you froze there for a second. I wasn't sure if I lost you.
I was playing a joke on you there.
Oh, that was nice. So November, kind of an interesting month, where it's kind of launching into the holidays.
Yeah, big month for you, Ryan.
Big month for me.
Well, it's your birthday.
Yeah, my birthday's in December, yes. In fact, as of filming this, my birthday's in 5.5 hours.
Oh, let's just do a long enough video that we can finish it.
In honor of it, we are gonna make it to.
Here we go. Stay tuned, folks.
Now, we're gonna be talking about the very best plays that we had in November. We'll have links to all the games below if you want to check them out for yourselves. We'd also love to hear what were your best board game plays of November. What made it to the table?
Yeah.
What made it so good?
There's some good opportunities sometimes in November. Thanksgiving, maybe you got some games with
some
family games. Maybe it's lots of opportunity.
Last night, Daniel, we were talking about this. I was actually at the Monday night Broncos game. Had the opportunity to go, and the whole time I'm thinking, don't strain your voice because you got to film tomorrow for the.
So you just sat there in silence.
Yeah, just sat there in silence.
So game.
Just
wow.
Know the sacrifices that I make for this channel.
Ryan is all in on
channel. If you can't tell. So
yeah,
Daniel, let's get this rolling. I don't know that I have any awareness of what you played. This
good.
month,
we need to get rolling. Both of us are like dying of sickness over here. So,
but there's probably gonna be some coughing in this video.
We'll push through.
If that's a trigger, warning, coughing incoming.
Trigger warning. If you're triggered by coughs, please click off the video now.
Maybe Daniel will edit out in post.
I'll just cut it. Yes. Okay, Ryan. No, actually, I got some good stuff here. I'm pumped to talk about these. So my number 3 play of November is a brand new game to me. And actually, I don't know if you've played it. But I don't even own it, but got to play it just a few days ago. And was very impressed, so much so that it went on to my, I don't know about must have, but definitely love to have level of games for me. This is going to go to Skull King.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, this is a very simple, little card game, that has a lot of similarities. I believe it's Spades that it has, similarities to.
There's a few trick-taking games that are probably
it's a trick-taking
similar.
game that is very similar to a lot of like very standard trick-taking games. But every round you're making a bet. Everyone at the same time is going to make a bet on how many tricks they're going to win. So you kind of are looking at your hand, and then we go 1, 2, 3, and and basically if you get the number of tricks right on, you're going to get 20 points per trick. But the other interesting thing is, if you say 0 and you're correct, you're going to get 10 points per the number of round that it is. And so the interesting thing about this
you get more cards.
Right. Yeah. The game's played over 10 rounds, and you get the number of cards you're dealt is the round you're in. So first round, it's just 1 card, but by the end, 10th round, you've got 10 cards. This game, I just loved it. Really. It was, because one, I the escalation, obviously, of like getting more and more cards each round, I think is really fun. I found the decision making to be really interesting around like looking at your hand and being like, like how many tricks do I go for here? Because there's some interesting interaction. There's some special cards. I think there's 4 suits, like 1 to, I don't know if it's 13 or something like that. But then there's some special cards as well. And so, trying to figure out, okay, what's the best with that? There's also if I don't think, especially if you're behind, if you're like, I don't think I can get a lot of tricks, then it's worth trying to maybe go for 0, especially in those, as the game goes on, because you could end up getting a lot of points that way as well. This one was a blast. It was one we were laughing a lot during. I don't know. There's just kind of a funny nature of when everyone goes and, let's say it's round, 4 or something. And so there's 4 tricks that are going to get 1, and we all put 3. And so we all, that's 9 tricks for, and there's, or something like that. There were just a lot of really funny moments in that reveal of how many tricks, and then seeing it play out and see some people be way off. I had one of those where I was just wildly off, and it was horrible for me. Yeah, I think also this one works really well because there's a lot of people that are familiar with just trick-taking games like this. It just is a little bit of a twist on it that I thought worked really, really well. So, yeah, I was quite impressed, Ryan, with Skull King, and so much so it came in at my number 3.
Nice. I have a friend that's a big fan of Skull King, and so I've had the opportunity to play it a few times. And I think like there's so many examples of modern trick-taking games that are like huge spins on the trick-taking genre, and it's like kind of all the craze right now. There's so many that come out. Skull King, I feel like, is one of the best, like, not trying to do a huge twist, like really staying pretty close.
It's very similar.
Which the big advantage to that is introduce accessibility, to introduce it, and that familiarity. But the little bit it does do works really well with some of the extra cards. And I think there was an old game called Oh Hell, I think, that had that escalating, like how many cards you have per. So depending, on how many of these types of games people have played, they might be familiar with some of these concepts. But yeah, I definitely think if you're looking for like something that's close to that traditional trick taking, but it's got a little twist and a little bit more maybe modern feel, I've had fun the times I've played it.
Very nice.
Number 3 is a game that has a lot more going on than a trick-taking game. A game that has become very, very popular in recent years, that when we first learned about it, thought this is probably one we're going to really enjoy. And in fact, we have really enjoyed it. And this is Ark Nova.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you got this one to the table.
Got to play of Ark Nova.
You've been not sharing
and this
what
is
your
probably,
plays with me, Ryan. Jeez.
Yeah, I figure bring more authentic reaction to the channel.
I know.
Come on, Jake, you're going to make me cough.
Sorry. I
know. So Ark Nova, this is probably the 3rd time I've played, I think, with the Marine Worlds expansion. Excellent expansion. And I felt like
good.
This time was one of the times I got to most kind of experience it, because I kind of had like an aquarium strategy, at least from the beginning. And I was able to get a few, like right in the first, few rounds or whatever, I got several of like the reef dwelling ones that like trigger all of your previous reef dwellers. So I was able to get a really nice combo that like just gave me a lot of kind of engine building benefits, at relatively low cost. Honestly, the bummer was I pretty early on filled all of my big aquarium and my little aquarium. So I like literally couldn't play any more aquatic animals, because you can't build another one of either, unless I have a way to like, get a conservation project that you can release something. But yeah, and I had the board where there's a lake, and building around the lake gives you more money. So I was having all my aquariums kind of hug that. And then the other great thing that the expansion adds is the replacing 2 of your cards with special versions of the cards. So I had the version of the animal one that after I, play my animals, if I have no animals left in my hand, it lets me do a hunter action, which is the one where you get to draw off the top of the deck and keep an animal from there. So I'm like always trying to like, it was weird because you like want to kind of just have one animal at a time, because then you can always like try to get the next one. But sometimes it's like, strategically you might have more than one.
Right.
And then my build action was the one that every time I build, I can also build an additional pavilion, which really helped for filling out my whole map and getting lots more of those. And I kind of played it into the kiosks, because the kiosks give you money per building around them, so pavilions can help with that. And yeah, so it was nice to get to just like lean into the expansion more. But I again was just reminded of just how solid the core system is here.
Yeah.
The way that the efficiency of your actions and what level you want to do kind of guides your decisions, and then that plays into the whole. We love games like this that you just get tons of cards, and every new card you draw is like another piece of like, ooh, what can I do with this? Kind of that tactical play. And then you get the whole spatial puzzle of working on your board, and really, really solid game. This is probably my I don't know if I've played it around 10 times or something at this point, which pales in comparison to many, especially those
Right.
board game arena regulars. But really enjoying my plays with it so far. Always good to get to the table.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that one for you if it's gonna, elevate into kind of the, I think about like Agricola, Terraforming Mars, like those ones you've played a lot and play, they've kind of hit that longevity, status. It'll be interesting to see if Arc Nova can stay in the have the longevity of like a state, and I think it will.
It feels like it will. I don't know that it'll surpass some of those games, but I mean it's landed in my top 5 games of all time already, so
that's pretty good.
It's pretty high praise.
Very nice, Ryan. Coming over to my number 2. This game is one that I've mentioned on several top plays of previous months. And this was the finale of the short little campaign that we were doing of it. The opening campaign. Some would call it kind of a demo campaign, but I actually think that undersells it. This goes to Arkham Horror, the card game. So again, just this last week, I got together with my buddy and we played the scenario or the campaign in the opening box or in the starter box is just a 3 mission thing, and really is kind of think designed to just get you familiar with the system. You get a little bit of upgrading, but in terms of like mission mechanics, I think it's pretty safe and not trying a lot of like crazy things, But I tell you what, I'd read a lot of stuff ahead of time of like, I think people who've played a lot of the content,
looking back,
they speak very poorly of it. So like, maybe I'm just naive because I haven't played any of the other stuff yet, but I'm like, I had a blast, and it's so cool in it as I'm realizing, because one of the things that I'm sometimes hesitant with story-driven games is that the replayability, it comes at the sacrifice of variability. Like playing through it again is not going to be fun because you know the story. But I don't know. I see a lot of variability that's injected into this that would make playing through it fun again. I think about this scenario that we were playing where, we're kind of searching around these woods, and there's 4 different locations that are woods cards, but I think there's 6 woods cards total, and at the start of the mission you shuffle and deal. So I just love little things like that. It's like, oh, what did we get this time that we didn't get the other time? And then so you've got variability there. Obviously you got variability with like the branching paths and different stuff, and it is so fun in games like these when you have moments where you realize decisions that you made earlier or things you did earlier are now impacting what's happening right now. Like that's just and this is the opening thing, so I'm not spoiling that much, but it's like a character that we were in a previous mission that we were trying to find and take out all these different people. Well, we got all of them but one. And so then in this final mission, when we get to this one part, the one is, there. Yeah. And so just like little things like that just draw you into the narrative. And I think just make it a really rewarding narrative experience. So we had a really fun game of it, won the campaign, and it was just a blast. And now my mind's just, I'm thinking, okay, Dunwich. I'm looking at the kind of that campaign, next and whatnot. But I could even go back and play this again and play with different characters. The core box has 3 other characters with completely different styles and stuff like that. So man, it feels so good. I imagine you felt this way, especially with Lord of the Rings, the card game, when you find a collectible card game that you're just like, yes. This really hits the spot of what I'm wanting. because then there's kind of, it feels like endless content that you can potentially explore in the future.
For better or worse.
Yeah,
you
right.
Can keep buying more.
But you know what? If you do that at a slow rate, I mean, that's no different than buying like, different board games. It's just you're getting the next thing for the same thing that you already love. So
I mean, the biggest thing is just like, do you have the control to only expand at the rate that you're actually playing the content?
And
because I think where you can fall into a trap is like
buy it all,
just buying, and you're just completely outpacing how you're playing it.
Yes, and Ryan has helped me resist doing that. So thank you, Ryan.
I try.
Ryan saved me plenty of money.
Sometimes hypocritical, as I've definitely picked up some Lord of the Rings sets that I have not even gotten close to touching.
Oh, Ryan. My goodness. Wow.
Sorry. Confession time.
I've got a few more I can share.
Yeah. Let's just this video. We said we had to go, 5.5 hours? So
we could spend a few hours on that.
Yeah. I think it's to just add one note on what you were saying about Arkham Horror. I think it's cool how they designed the missions to always fail forward. So you never replay a mission, but because it fails forward, that gives them all of these like different inputs into the next mission because you're not always going to the next mission because you won the last mission. It could be like different degrees of failure. And so that influences how the next mission starts. And so it's just kind of cool what they can do with that kind of design wise and like have that branch the story a little bit.
Totally agree. So.
Definitely one I'm looking forward to playing more.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remind.
Have you played it solo at this point?
Did you play Have you played it?
Yeah, so I finished the full base campaign solo.
Okay.
I was playing two-handed.
Nice.
And so at this point, that's probably at some point I'll pick up done. It's just like I don't play enough solo games to be like I need to go out and get it, and I have like other stuff I'll play. But
very nice.
Cool. My number 2. Is a game that I have a lot of content for, that I have played a lot, and that more recently a lot of my plays have come with my 4-year-old son. This is Marvel United.
Ooh.
I tell you, Toby and I have a jolly old time playing Marvel United.
That's
he almost always is Spider-Man, and
has he ever not played Spider-Man?
A couple of times. I think he's been like Hulk and Iron Man, but mostly Spider-Man. I forget actually who I was in this particular game. But we were playing the Sinister Six, which is a very fun variant mode. I don't know that you've played it.
No.
But basically you're fighting 6 villains at once, and there's like this different sheet that you use. And each of the like threats around the board is that you need to you can't hit somebody until you get rid of their weak spot. So there'll be like Dr. Octopus, and if you're with him, you can spend icons to put onto his weak spot to get rid of his weak spot, and now you could potentially hit him. And you need to end up doing that for all 6 of them. But their activation is so interesting because it's 2 of them each time are going to activate. And so it's always like different people activating, and they all have kind of different abilities. Like Vulture is going around and picking up people, and like he'll end up like dropping them. And Doc Ock is like putting out these crisis tokens at locations that could I think they just hurt us if we're in one that has it. And Mysterio has this thing that he like give you something that you have to play randomly the next time. And so it's very dynamic, like the number of different things that are happening. But I think this was a perfect example of, it's a very simple, quick cooperative game, but I've played it so much and been amazed at how many times it gives me in that short time that cooperative experience feeling of like, oh my gosh, this is so close. Are we going to be able to pull it out? And in this case, this feeling of like, we talked about this, I think, before with like Last Bastion or Ghost Stories, where it's like, what do we need to do to give ourselves a chance? Like if we do this and you do this, okay, there would be a chance. And that's definitely how it felt here. We were to the point where I think the villain deck was almost out. And if the villain deck runs out, then that's it and you lose. And we needed to beat Mysterio, and we didn't have the ability to like move and hit at the same time. And so we basically had to make a bet that the only way we could win was if I moved to where we guessed he would move next time. So that way he would come to me. And then even if he came to me, I had a crisis token for Mysterio, or he was going to give me one that I would have to play randomly from my last 2 cards, and only one of my cards had the punch that we would need.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, but I think this is the only way it could happen.
Yeah.
And so I moved, to the space that was like 2 in front of him, because it was like, okay, that's like maybe a common amount of move. Well, go figure, he moves directly to me. I end up shuffling my 2 cards, and it's like, okay, Toby, pick randomly. And he picked the one that had the punch, and we won.
Gosh,
and just his reaction to that, because he realized kind of like how unlikely it was, kind of as we were, and it was just a fun moment. And it's we love that kind of thing in a cooperative game like that. And yes, it was like at that point it was kind of out of our hands in terms of there were some lucky things that need to happen, but we got to feel clever in that we figured out. What's the thing that gives us a chance, and then to have it actually hit on that chance was very fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just continue to be impressed by this system and the different I don't need all the stuff that's out there for it. Believe it or not, if you saw my collection, you'd be like, you surely must have everything for this game. But no, they've done full campaigns since.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it is very fun to keep exploring kind of the different options and mix it up and just get that quick cooperative fix.
Yeah, that game, to be able to experience like those kind of moments with your son is so cool. To like have him start to like, I think about how many times we've shared those incredible cooperative things, and for him to now be like experiencing those things as well, and it's only going to increase from here. I actually got to play Marvel United this last month as well. Played it with my brother-in-law when they were staying with us, and yeah, actually I was also I haven't been able to play it a lot. Like it's honestly one I'm holding on to mainly for kids, because like I think it's gonna be a really great game.
You only have the base set at this point.
And I only have the base set.
Is a great place to start, but that you just it so increases the enjoyment of it with some extra stuff.
Like playing it again, I was just like, this is a solid game. Like it's a fun little cooperative game, and obviously the theme is cool too, and all that. So but yeah, I don't have all the content.
And you don't need all the content. I mean, it would go a long way. Like if I was you and you were like, I want to expand it a little bit, I'd be like, go pick up the X-Men base set, because that's like really good bang for your buck. Especially since you don't really care who you're getting in terms of character.
I don't know
any
really
of them. A Marvel guy. Though if you're an X-Men,
it could be fantasy for all I care.
But like that, and like there's maybe one other, 2 other. Like it just exponentially increases the combinations and everything that you can do. So
that's cool. Very nice, Ryan. Okay, we are coming around to the top play of November, and oh boy, was this a top play of November. This was not only a game that is just an incredible board game, honestly, is just great every single time you get to play it, but this was an incredible play of it. This was right at the beginning of the month, and I got a delightful play of Terraforming Mars. Nice. We had another couple over, so we got to play a 4-player game of it, and it was such a fun game. Like it was so tight. Like it was one of those games where we're like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I have no idea who's winning. Like we are just, it's so tight. And so, all that made it really interesting. I was really bummed early because I like was so close on like multiple milestones, and it was like multiple times the turn right before me, someone took it. And so I got completely shut out of milestones, which is brutal. So then I was being ultra greedy on like goals or awards or whatever, thinking I got to try to make up some points there. But anyways, this game was wild because, and I'm not sure I've ever had this happen, we filled the entire board.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Like, I can't ever remember that happening. We were playing on the map so much. We were building so many cities and greeneries. And so it was, it was honestly unbelievable that we got to that point where literally every space was filled up. So that was interesting. And then you come down to we're doing the final scoring, and this is how the scoring ends up. It's 88, 85, 84, 82. Like,
nice.
I mean, we're all within 6 points of each other. So just an incredible finish. I won't tell you which one of those I was, but yeah, it was man, one of those that you just get done and you're like, that game was so great. The cards in it, just every single time. We love games that have interesting cards, and this one every single turn you just get the excitement of new cards to you're building this engine, and every single turn you're just getting injected more options to feed into it. Now obviously the big dilemma is you buy too many cards, you don't have any money to actually play the cards. The joke we always have is like, oh, I really hope there's no good cards in this one because
I need to
stop buying more cards. So it's that really is the challenge in that game. But the game just has such a great blend, I find, of like the personal nature of your kind of doing your own thing, building your own engine, but then like the shared nature of the board and the awards and I don't know, it really does all of that together in a really nice way, where it's not like it's a game that I'm playing by myself and then it's like, oh yeah, well I also got a occasion, like I don't know, it all blends together really well. And it's also cool because you can do very little on the board and do a ton in your just cards and win the game, and you can do the flip side and not have a lot of points in cards, but man, you had a ton of greeneries, with cities well placed on the board. So yeah, the different strategies are pretty great. We unfortunately played we actually played the couple that came over their copy, so we didn't play with like colonies. Or actually I don't think we played with, I don't think they had Prelude either. So but even just like base Terraforming Mars is a great game. Like as much as I will rave about Prelude, colonies, all that stuff, base Terraforming Mars is a delight. So man, Ryan, that was so much fun. That is such a good game. What a good board game.
That's one of those games that every time I finish playing it, I have this feeling of like, I could just play that again. And I don't feel that way about all of kind of heavier games, but something about that game just, it's kind of addictive.
Oh, that's not good.
Yes.
Wow.
If you have a addiction problem with Terraforming Mars, please call our hotline.
Yes. Well, we've got it below.
My number one has been a long time coming. I think I've probably both years on this channel that we've counted down our top games, I've had to sadly talk about why this game that I rank quite highly has not been played in, the last year. And I finally made it happen, got it to the table. Arguably the most thematic experience of any board game I've ever played. Wow. This is War of the Ring.
Oh, man.
The definitive Lord of the Rings epic experience. You start out the giant board, the map of all of Middle Earth.
That is a big board. Is that the biggest board you have?
It's two boards put together.
Yeah, that's
but the full size is probably the biggest board I have.
Jeez.
I don't know. Wonderland's board is pretty big too, but
really? Okay.
It is, yeah. It's a table hog.
Wow.
And you start, and the fellowship has been formed in Rivendell, and you see, and again, it's I am a big fan of the book and the movies, and so was the friend I was playing with who hadn't played it before, and so you're filling in all the details of this world with what you know about it. It's just so alive because of that. And then you get to just watch this alternate history unfold of, it's a lot of what ifs, like what if this had happened or what if this had happened?
Yeah.
And it just such a narrative. Like I can just think back to things that happened and, how in our particular game, I forget what the Southrons and Easterlings that, in the book and movie, they're in that final battle at Minas Tirith that people, I'm going to get the real Lord of the Rings fans and the chat to correct
And
my
meanwhile, I'm over
pronunciations.
here not knowing what
Yeah,
the heck you're
Daigle
talking
doesn't
about.
even know any of these things. But they like stormed the, beach. He had a special card that let him kind of like do the sneak attack on the beach, kind of in the south area of Gondor. And like over the first few rounds, Gondor just like fell.
Oh,
like it
my
just got
gosh.
was just like wrecked. And so then we're like bolstering up in Rohan to just kind of like be the second wave there. And meanwhile, the Fellowship, we're moving along. Early on, Gimli split off to go up to the dwarven kind of colonies and get them on board with the war, while Legolas actually just dropped off in Lorien with Galadriel, which ended up being a very focal point, because one of the things the Shadow player usually is trying to do in this game is get 10 points worth of strongholds that they've taken over, which are kind of the major places. So Lorien is a 2-point stronghold. Well, we were playing with the this is the first time I played with the first expansion, which is the Lords of Middle Earth, and one of the things it adds is the Shadow player can actually get the Balrog to come out, like the big flaming in Moria, and he actually can like get it to come out onto the map and like out of Moria.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had a point where the Balrog, along with like the orcs from Dol Guldur, were assaulting Lorien, and Legolas and them are trying to hold off in there. They ultimately fell eventually, sadly.
Oh man.
And meanwhile, the Fellowship is going down. It got down to it was just Strider, Boromir, Sam, Frodo, and Pippin were still heading towards Mount Doom. Gandalf had run off with Merry and was going to support in Rohan, ultimately ended up in a big siege battle in Helm's Deep because Isengard was sending the orcs, down, and we were holding out there. Had a pretty good, I did a pretty good job of, while Gondor was part of the reason Gondor fell is because I kind of was like, okay, I think this is inevitable. I'm going to try to build up in Rohan so that like I'm more prepared for when that comes to the next thing. So I was more prepared there to make a big stand, and ultimately you kind of want the Fellowship to get down to just Frodo and Sam, and then automatically Gollum will join them. And there's some advantages to that happening. So Strider and Boromir and Pippin end up kind of also in Rohan. Like Rohan was all of the strongholds and stuff there were kind of the final big things that were happening. And so ultimately I did get the Fellowship to Mount Doom, was going up Mount Doom, got to the point where I was to the last one. And when you're on the track of Mount Doom, it becomes this just each turn you're drawing, the Shadow player draws a tile out of the bag. And if it doesn't have like a stop icon on it, you get to go one step, but it potentially affects your corruption. And if Frodo ever gets too much corruption, you also lose. But if you get one of the ones that have a stop icon, it doesn't move at all. And it's cool because throughout the game, we will have played cards that seed that bag with things. So because I played I forget, like the Elven Rope thing earlier, that token got put in the bag. And so again, you can just play it out thematically. Like if you draw that in the bag on Mount Doom, it's like the Elven Rope saved them, in this situation, this thing that they got way back.
That's so cool.
And so we got to the point where I'm on the final step and we're doing a draw from the bag. And like, I'm going to win the game unless he gets one that it has a stop icon. And it's not that many of them. And his first draw, he draws a Smeagol token, which is something that got added in the expansion that like, if that comes out earlier in the game, Smeagol, who's like pre-Gollum, will come out and like there's a thing that works in the game. So at first we thought I won because it was like it wasn't a stop. Well, then we looked and we found that, okay, if Gollum is already out, if you draw a Smeagol tile, it gets discarded and redrawn. So then we redraw and he draws a stop icon. So he's alive. And while this is happening, he is just bearing down in Rohan to win those last points. And I'm just trying to hold out in these siege battles. And so we go into the next round and I roll and I get the worst roll because I didn't roll any character dice, which are what you need to move the Fellowship. So I literally didn't have actions to move the Fellowship. And so that round, and I didn't have any of the Elven Rings left that I can use, as a wild. And so now I'm needing to hold out for a whole nother round, and I ultimately couldn't do it. And he ended up taking over I think Helm's Deep was the last one to fall. And I lost with the Fellowship right on the precipice. And we ended up looking like in the bag. We were like, what were the odds? Like when he drew that stop, it was a 4 in 19.
Wow.
So he hit on a 4 in 19 chance to save it. And then that got paired with me rolling no characters, which I think is 2 of the sides of all my dice. And I was rolling 4 or 5 dice.
Oh my gosh.
So it was one of these against all odds.
Yeah.
Like it really looked like I had it. But again, that's what's so awesome about this game is you get this epic story and there's so many points of, randomness, but randomness that's harnessed to just enhance the story and the excitement and what's going to happen. So about as good of a game as we could have asked for as far as it was so close. I mean, I think both of us were feeling like we didn't know right up until the end.
Yeah. Has every one of your games of that been close? I know ours was.
Yeah, ours was similar with the Fellowship getting all the way there. The other one I played, I was the Shadow and the player that was new was the Fellowship and kind of didn't do a great job of pushing the Fellowship to Mount Doom. So it got to a point where he kind of had to go for a military victory of trying to get like 4, which is kind of hard with the Free Peoples, at least for amateurs like us.
Right.
He almost tricked me on it, but that one we didn't get like the cinematic finish of Frodo on Mount Doom.
Yeah. Just seems like it's been delivering some pretty exciting finishes.
Yeah, that it like seems to go towards this inevitable climax pretty reliably.
Yeah.
And naturally, so this game, I mean, it took us I think around 5 hours to play.
That's not short.
And of course we've got the Lord of the Rings soundtrack playing in the background,
and you're dressed.
And I tell you,
Lord of the Rings
full
tunic.
cosplay.
Yes.
No. And the music, it enhances it, man. You're doing things and suddenly it hits into one of those intense tracks or something.
We had music playing during our Arkham Horror the card game. There's a sweet playlist on Apple Music for Arkham Horror that
so it's one of those things. If you love kind of big thematic board games and you love Lord of the Rings, you owe it to yourself to experience this game. It's not an easy one to get to the table, though it's 2-player. You just need one other person that
one
feels
other crazy
the way
person
you do to try to make it happen. And fortunately, the friend I played it with is a friend that's likely to still be here. So there's a good chance we'll play again. That could be very fun. I really enjoyed playing with the expansion. Now, granted, it's adding so much more rules overhead on a game that already has so much rules overhead.
Play with the same person every time,
It's like the opposite of kind of like what you say in like elegant game design. There's all these things that it's like, man, this is like these huge exceptions and all these little rules around this like side character that could come into play. But then you look at all of it and you're like, but it all is so thematic how it works. And if it happens, it's going to be so interesting and cool. So, it's one of those games that you accept all that complexity so that you can have this truly epic experience. Hey there. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching this video. We've got lots of videos on the channel. If you want to check any of them out, we've got a few of them here. Like we said, we have links to all these games if you want to check them out for yourself. Find a new favorite, get it to the table. You can check those out in the description. We will see you in the next one.